All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Beastars Season 2, Episode 12. The finale.
All right, this is the Season 2 finale, y'all.
Oh, boy.
We've got Louis headed to potentially save Legoshi.
Possibly.
Ibuki is the one driving, though.
Yep.
So...
And there was that scary, like, gunshot sound, which I get the feeling was not literal. It was thematic for what's going on. But still scary.
But... we have Legosi and Riz underneath the railway, and
Pina's
they're about
blood.
to fight. Yes, Pina's blood.
Yeah.
On Riz's sweater shirt.
Not his mouth, though.
Not his mouth.
Not his mouth.
Yeah.
That might have just been because that would be easy to spot, and so he washed that off or something, you know.
Or because he just didn't eat Pina. He just broke him, you know.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah, he definitely doesn't need to eat Pina in order to kill him.
To kill him.
And maybe, who knows, maybe that was something where he's like, I didn't want to eat Pina. Because then I would have less of an appetite for you.
Right. I didn't need to eat Pina either. I just finally made good on my biting off his finger thing. And I just took his finger and just rubbed the blood all over my shirt just to enrage you so that you would fight at, you know, with reckless abandon.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. So
fuck. What's his name? What's his name? The Ibuki. You're gonna be okay. Don't do anything rash. I know that you would be okay with it, even if you did, because of everything that happened last episode. But please don't.
Yeah, it's a good one, Jacob.
Yeah.
So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Alright everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That was incredible. I'm searching for words, but so okay.
So running it all back.
Yeah.
It was one gigantic scene.
Pretty much.
Outside of setting up how Louis ends up joining it.
Right.
And then the breaking up between Haru and Legoshi. Which you can interpret that not necessarily as breaking up, but it's just the idea that they...
It's the conclusion of what happened or sort of didn't happen with them in the second season, and giving us a framework for what to look forward to in the third season.
Because Legoshi will be quitting school.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
But... starting with Ibuki and Louis, there's so many things I want to say about this because we had so many things of build-up for Ibuki specifically in this season of where we could tell, yeah, if there was something that was going to happen to Louis, Ibuki would die before Louis would get hurt. But we could never have expected this to go into such a manner where it wasn't that Louis was actually in danger, really, like in any immediate sense. But Ibuki had set up a promise with the other lion that if he ever put himself, or he put Louis in any danger by his acts, you know, as a lion, that he was to gun him down. Yep. Which, yes, fantastic stuff. But the idea that Louis, who's going to, in some ways, potentially his death, or even in some ways to put himself as the enemy of the Leo group, Ibuki goes with him to, well, convince him otherwise. Right,
and it's something where it wasn't a thing that was done out of a lack of control. Right, it was something in a lot of ways that felt like Ibuki was also realizing this of, oh, I guess I'm a Leo group man through and through. That's how deep it goes. Yeah. If I'm putting them such as the priority, even over Louis here,
the one who gave me bliss, the one who gave me new life,
that I'm going to use this as a way to try and convince him to stay with the Leo group, and I feel like this is kind of what he needs. You know, he doesn't have the he doesn't have the red test yet. He hasn't had the trial of blood, right? Yeah. Not really. Like he killed the boss. That's one thing. But killing an enemy is a lot easier than killing a friend, right? Yeah. So And in a lot of ways, if he was going to be the boss of the Leo group, the true boss, that is something he would have to do at some point. Maybe they wouldn't necessarily be a friend, because once he passes that test, he would kind of be acknowledging that he can't have friends, right? Because it gets too hard, right? But it's I will try and make sure that this person is the absolute best possible leader for the Leo group that he can be. And in order to do that, I have to die.
Because, well,
he has to kill me.
Yeah, okay. I want to throw out another idea here. The lion who shot Ibuki says, never come back to the dark market again. Because then, if you do, Ibuki will have died for nothing.
Right.
I think what he's saying then is that, well, if you're resolved to quit, then you can never come back.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that essentially what you're saying? That he's actually Louis is now never coming back? So it sounds like you were saying that he's being set up to be the best leader.
That's what Ibuki was wanting. Is that when he came out here. Because I think there was the possibility that he knew that he could end up getting shot, right? But there was also the idea of this kid's quitting the Leo group.
Right.
I can't let that happen. So I'm going to either eat him or he's going to kill me, and he'll continue on as the leader. Now, the fact that there was that other variable, maybe he forgot about it. Maybe it was intentional, that he was expecting the guy to come by and shoot him, you know? But
what if he wasn't actually wanting to keep him in the Leo group, though? What if he was actually just wanting to be like, no, I want you to quit, and I will make sure that you're resolved to do this.
Okay, yeah.
So if I die, you can't come back.
Sure.
Because if you do, they will kill you.
They will kill you. And also, one of the other ways this kind of plays in nicely with the whole idea that the other guy ended up killing him because he killed him instead of Louis. Yeah. One, that's showing that Louis didn't have the resolve to actually pull the trigger, right?
Well, he wasn't forced to either.
Well, sure.
He didn't have to become a murderer and kill.
Sure, but if depending on how
Louis already killed before.
Right. Yeah. Louis has totally already killed, but assuming that this part of the ED wasn't impressionistic, because a lot of the extended part of the ED was impressionistic, but assuming this wasn't, Louis dropped the gun. He refused to shoot. He wasn't
going to shoot. Yeah.
Right. He wasn't going to shoot, and then the other guy came in and shot him. Right.
Right.
One of the other potential problems with something like this is that when you join a group like that, you don't just unjoin. That doesn't work.
We kill you. Yeah.
We kill you.
Yeah.
Given the fact that Ibuki had the other guy kill him,
right,
that is almost the perfect way to ensure that he won't also kill Louis.
Right.
Because one, there is a
I was the one that screwed up.
I was the one that screwed up. Right. Two, if you then kill him, he will have died for nothing.
Right.
And three, it's something that happens basically in private. Yes. Right. And this guy could go back and basically say, "Oh, he ate Louis, and so I killed him."
Yeah,
right?
He tried to attack him.
Right, exactly. You know, and Louis dead or whatever. But because it's just this guy that knows, Louis can now safely leave. He doesn't exist anymore, and hence the whole thing of not just don't come back to the Leo group, don't ever set foot in the dark market again. Right, because then people will know you will die. Yeah. Right, like and I will be happy to be the one to kill you. Right. But so I
really feel like what he did here was he created a closed loop. He basically took all of Louis' experience with the Leo group and sealed it off away with his death. And because he died in this way, Louis now has the choice.
Right.
He can be completely free of his cage and go off and live his life wherever he wants. But if he wants to specifically bring up this conflict again, he will be starting back from zero. Because what the other lion's going to have to basically do is just come back to the Leo group with a convincing story.
Right.
And he's got plenty that he could use.
Right. Yeah. But what this means is that given the fact that Legosi ended up devouring Louis' leg and got the criminal record as a result of that, it's probably going to go back to Louis being the Beastar, because he would be the one basically credited with, figuring out who the killer was, right? Because it probably wouldn't go to Legosi, even though he actually figured out, which is probably just fine with Legosi. He wouldn't want to be the Beastar.
He doesn't care.
But this whole thing with Ibuki is still the trial by fire kind of that Louis needed in order to truly be free and be that leader, be free of his cage, and then he can actually be a leader the way he always wanted to be, but in truth, not just in facade, right? Not just as a stage actor. When he goes back and talks to his dad next, 1, he'll be on crutches. 2, there will be no lack of resolve in those eyes. He won't need a gun in order to get his dad to know that he's serious. And that's one of the things that, because like when there was the whole idea of like Louis going to the fight with Riz, I was thinking, okay, from a technical perspective, the fight has to end with a gun because there is no way it will make sense for Legoshi to actually beat Riz, right?
We thought.
I was thinking, okay, maybe, just maybe, Ibuki will be able to beat Riz. Lion and wolf versus bear, possibly, right? But no, it's not that. It's not that at all.
It's way better.
It's way better. And I love that when Louis standed up to Riz, he didn't need the gun. Now, it's possible that the guy, when he killed Ibuki, he took Louis' gun, right? Because, heck, just for his own safety, right?
Okay.
Just because, okay, he wouldn't want Louis to then shoot him and then leave or something. I don't know, right? But
I don't see how that matters, but
yeah.
Gotcha.
But regardless, there was not a gun used, right? It was Louis standing there of his own decision, courage, will, etc. Legoshi saves him, and then we get to the point where they have their talk.
And that's just the best part of the episode.
Yeah, so good.
Hands down.
Like
the stuff with Riz was really strong, and while Riz and Legoshi having their fight ends up, with a very sound victory to Riz in the beginning part there. I really liked the bit that Legoshi basically adjusted and went into and said hey, let's talk about this, because one of the things that wouldn't have happened is Louis wouldn't have shown up in time if he didn't do this.
That's true.
Now, because he did this, he discerned correctly that what Riz really has been just looking for is a partner in all of this. Tem was one that he kind of was able to delude himself into thinking is always with him throughout this, so that he doesn't feel alone. But he knew. He knew all along, and I like that we brought that up in that his rational mind still won out over the idealized romance, if you will, of Tem being kind of inside him and with him throughout all this.
It wasn't like a straight up psychosis or something where he truly didn't know what was real. It's the I'm going to choose to believe this. Yeah. I prefer this reality, or this over reality.
Yeah, and then that's not like you said, it's not actual psychosis, but it was something that was enough to get him to go throughout his days.
Right.
But we saw him going throughout his days, especially after things started to exacerbate a bit with Legoshi.
Yeah.
He's suffering. Just constant daily suffering. And it's not just his life as a bear or as a big brown bear. It's everything to do with Tem. It's everything to do with the fact that there are these two, Pina and Legoshi, who are starting to threaten his fragile reality that he's constructed, his little house of cards. But Legoshi being willing to basically say, hey, I'll step into your house.
Right.
I'll listen. I'm not here to just knock down your cards just for the sake of knocking them down. I actually care about you.
Right. In a lot of ways, even during the fight.
You want, you don't have to talk to me.
Sure.
Yeah, he could have just killed him there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and Legoshi was okay with that, right? That's what he was betting on, right? He was risking his life in doing all this because it was that important for him to reach this person who could have been him. Who would have been him. If not for just some, slightly different environmental circumstances, right?
Right.
And the fact that there were a few things with regards to how the fight went down that I really appreciated. One, the fact that he wasn't actually killing Legoshi all those times when he could have, even though it was hopeless for Legoshi to actually beat him once he started whipping him around and stuff. Why? Right? If he was just wanting to kill him, he would have. But once he tasted Legoshi's meat, and he was like, hold on, this is tougher than it should be. You've eaten meat too, haven't you?
Yeah, at
that point, he stopped going for kills.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And in fact, when he was like, whoa, are you dead already?
Yeah.
Because he was seeking companionship, right? At that point.
Right.
And then one of the other things that I was like, okay, it's not going to do this because the show wouldn't do this, but I've seen this happen in other stories. I hope it doesn't happen where suddenly Legoshi is just like, you know what? I have extra resolve. I can fight just fine now, even though my body has been broken like crazy, right? Oh, kind of, but there was a specific mechanical reason for it. And even when he punched Riz, did you see Riz double over? No.
No.
In fact, it almost looked like there was no impact whatsoever to that punch.
Okay, we skipped all the conversation with Louis.
No,
so
okay,
let's actually talk about that before we go into the souped up Legoshi.
Well, okay.
I really want to.
All right. Sure. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Can we just say that this was one of the best twists in Beastars?
Absolutely.
Like, it was foreshadowed.
And you don't need twists in stories.
No.
This one worked very well.
No, you didn't need this twist even.
Nope.
But the times where Louis was watching the herbivores offering their body parts in the season. That's the idea. That's the whole thing. That's the moment of seeding it. And then here he's like, well, I mean, just looking at Legoshi doing all this stuff, it's just the tears flowing, just completely ready to, well, I would say be himself for the first time.
Right. And then on top of that, all the stuff from what happened with Ibuki that he is just now actually processing, right? Because he came here straight after.
Right.
So like, and Legoshi was kind of surprised too by the tears. I mean, Louis was surprised as well, but it's the whole thing of, this isn't just for you, Legoshi. He's not saying what it's for, right? But even Legoshi is like, oh wow, this is, you really feel strongly about me, don't you? You know, like that you're just weeping like this. I have never seen you in a state even similar to this before.
Yeah.
Right?
I loved the bit where Legoshi basically said, well, I managed not to become a monster because you were there for me.
And it's exactly the same thing that Ibuki said to him, basically.
Right. And hearkening back to the words where he's like, I have to take responsibility of my rage, which is like a thing that Louis said to him, why would you take responsibility for your strength, like in like episode 2 or something.
Yeah.
But then just Louis' moments in this episode where he goes internal.
Yep.
And you can tell that he's trying to craft his words.
Keep it together. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of it falls apart.
Right.
And it's so perfect because it's like now his facade is gone too.
Yep.
In the same way that Riz's facade is gone, Ibuki's facade in some way is gone as well. On the way to this actual death, you know?
There's Louis brought up all the logic and all of the good reasons for why Legoshi shouldn't do this, right? And because of that, you're just going to throw your life away. That doesn't make sense, you know, etc., right? And then, oh, big surprise, the thing that ends up reaching him, some good old-fashioned vulnerability.
Yeah, I just love the way in which he's like, because of this happening to him with Ibuki, and because of how important this like not father was to him, he's like, I will not harden myself and try to let myself think that I'm okay with sacrificing you, Legoshi.
Yep.
Like I love it so much because
don't double tap me with this. Not 2 in one night.
Well, right, but to draw parallels between all of them, really, that's kind of what's been happening with all the characters here. Like, Riz sacrificed, if you will, Tem.
Yeah.
In a similar way.
Yeah, right.
In a way, they're all monsters here.
You've all told Tem for a sacrifice, yeah.
Right. But the thing that they've all done in a way, differently, but the same, is they've all sacrificed in a, not monstrous way, but in a way that I would say, call them a bit broken as far as people goes. Legoshi sacrificed Haru. This whole season was basically him sacrificing his relationship with her in order to gain strength so that he could protect everyone.
Yep, and that's something that
it worked.
It worked, and the thing is that the reason why I am that end conversation, and it's skipping around a bit, but that end conversation really made me feel better about the stuff that happened in the season leading up to it, because The problem that I kind of had originally wasn't that Legoshi was making the sacrifice, but that he was making a sacrifice and I wasn't sure if he realized he was making that sacrifice, right? But at the end there, it's like, oh, okay, no, he knows, and he wouldn't have changed it, right? It's he did the things that he did because that's what he needed to do, because that was the kind of person that he is, you know. Yeah. In the same way, with Ibuki, that's what Ibuki had to do,
right?
Riz got a very rude awakening into what kind of things he would do, right? And now Louis here, well, he also got a rude awakening, but of a different kind, right? All of a sudden, oh no, the poise and the grace falls away, and it's just tears, right? And the realization of I need this foot gone. I need this marking that says I'm just food. I need it gone.
I need you to take my weakness and turn it into a strength.
Right.
I need you to take this thing here that has been a crutch for me.
Yeah.
My past, my cage that I've locked myself in, that is not willing to be vulnerable, if you will.
Right.
To show weakness.
I can't get rid of it with my own strength.
Right.
You know.
So I need you to take it.
I would rather be on actual crutches than have these crutches.
Right. It's so beautiful. I think that this is the kind of twist that was foreshadowed brilliantly, because Louis' character arc in this season has been about shedding weakness, but then from there learning where true strength comes from. And Legoshi has been on a physical basic level been gaining strength. That's been his bit there. But the contradiction is that he is sacrificing also in a physical level his own carnivorous body to gain strength of will. So then it comes all the way full circle, like you were predicting, that eventually he would have to tap into his carnivorous nature to gain real strength, like the kind of strength,
but in positive circumstances.
Right. So it would need to be under a certain context. It would need to be basically a very regulated procedure. And we got the roughest, rawest, pun intended, version of that here.
Nice and actually consensual.
Right. In a very romantic kind of way, Louis offered his body, his weakness, up to Legoshi and said, I want you to take this upon you. If you're going to take responsibility for your strength and utilize it, use it here on me. I have granted you permission. It's
even so,
God, it's brilliant.
And even so, Legoshi made a decision, and this is a very important decision. He said, I'm doing this because I want to.
Right.
If he had eaten it, and granted, he wouldn't have eaten it if Louis hadn't offered, right? He wouldn't have, right? He has attained mastery of himself,
right?
But he is
not
also
under any temptation.
But he is also he is under temptation. I think.
Right, but until he starts eating, right?
Well, okay, let me finish.
Okay.
So he is under temptation, but it's not once it's offered, right? But the thing is that he's bested it, right? He's bested it so thoroughly in the past.
That's all I'm meaning.
Okay, yeah.
That's just splitting hairs. I'm just saying that, you're saying he was never going to eat Louis' foot if Louis didn't offer it.
Exactly.
Right. So no temptation. Yeah.
But once it's offered, he realizes that, I do want to, right? And if he hadn't admitted that he wanted to, then there would have been that part of himself that would have been giving in to the temptation. Because if he was truly holding to the ideal of do not eat living things, and that was just it, one, he wouldn't have eaten the bugs. But two, he definitely wouldn't have done this here.
Yes.
Right? So this was a realization. This is an example, I would say, of truly growing up. When you're young, everything is black and white, right? It's right and wrong. There's no shades of gray. It's just all like straightforward. And as a result of that, that's one of the reasons I think that stories featuring
coming of age stories,
coming of age and adolescence and things like that are incredibly compelling because the conflict is a lot more extreme. However,
and then they shift into the gray areas.
Ideally, they shift into the gray areas, but a lot of the times that doesn't necessarily make for interesting storytelling, so that doesn't happen, right? You know,
it's too difficult to write,
or it's too difficult to write, or that will happen at the very end of the story, but you don't see anything past that, right? It's like coming of age. They're there. They understand that there are more complicated things, but then no more because too difficult to write.
True love's kiss,
exactly.
and then nothing afterwards.
Yep. And the fact, and if Legoshi hadn't admitted to himself and to Louis that I want this as well, then there would have been that part of him that would have been like, yeah, just give in to your desires just a bit more. And if you're in a denial about it a little bit of why it's happening, that's fine. That's fine. He basically would have turned into Riz.
Yeah.
But he didn't, and that's to show that it's not that he doesn't have the desires; it's that he has mastery over the desires. They don't affect him.
Yeah.
And this is, I had when I said the whole thing of I hope that at some point Legoshi eats meat in a way that is good and positive. I had no idea this was what was going to happen. This is freaking amazing, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if this was actually going to happen because this is a very complicated situation that they're in here, right? This is not something that you would want to have happen regularly, right? In fact, you would do everything you can to avoid this situation.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Do you find it funny that the reason why Legoshi was having so much issue with the idea of eating meat was because he saw it as taking a life? But this was the literal technicality of how he ate meat, but he didn't actually take away anyone's life.
Yep.
But, that's literally what, in a lot of ways, the dark market has that justifies it, is that people willingly sell parts of themselves that they cut off.
And the reason why...
can just grow back, you know?
Yep. And if it was something where Louis was just take a part of me in order to win this fight, I wouldn't have liked it. But it was the fact that there was also something that Louis desperately needed for himself, and that's where the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts, right? The idea that both people can be taking things, and that works, right? Because normally you would think that it's a a zero-sum game, right? If one person gains, then another person must lose. But what if both people gain?
Yeah, but that's the part where I think this gets into the cool shades of gray area, is that it is exactly still the point of the dark market. That character reason for it, the number 4, the part of Louis that was stuck in the cage that he was like, take this curse off me, that was for Legoshi's sake as well.
Yes.
That was not as a thing entirely just because the 4 was something that he literally could not bear to acknowledge was there.
He hadn't thought too much about it until now.
No, if anything, it was probably a thing of where he had moments where he was like, I wish that I could undo the past, but that's childishness.
I wish I was stronger. I wish I was a different person. I wish that I didn't have all these vulnerabilities and insecurities and weaknesses that came as a result of growing up like that. Right. But he didn't ever think, oh yeah, it's all because of this number on my foot.
Right. Or something that could actually be fully removed. I think what's important here is that what he did was he asked for help. He basically said, I do not, like you said earlier, he's like, he does not have the capacity to handle this himself.
Nope.
So he takes, his friend, the one who, they love each other, is right there and has the strength, the ability, if you will, to tear this off of him in a violent and brutal fashion. But by him saying, I willingly want you to do this, it's a monumental step of saying, I will then rely on you or ask to rely on you in the future in ways like this. And not just you, but the encompassing you of others for, the rest of my life. And in a literal fashion, he is going to need physical assistance for the rest of his life because of doing this. He's putting on himself even a form of a weakness by saying, okay, now they literally mentioned before in this season that limb replacing technology has greatly grown.
Now, so the foot's gone, so they need something else.
But in terms of him being a cripple the rest of his life, that is definitely not necessarily the case because of what's been set up before.
Yep.
So it's almost monumental from the personality of Louis, who would never have asked for help, who would never have cried in front of someone else.
He walked around with a bum leg not the entire, but for several episodes in the first season without letting anyone know.
Right.
Yeah.
So now he willingly goes back to
Yep.
that. Louis is probably like one of the most well-written characters by far in this
favorite character, hands down.
Yeah, Legoshi is incredibly well-written as well. I think that Legoshi as a protagonist is so dang good.
Yep.
But I feel like it's a treat anytime we get first-person perspective for Louis.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the fact that
it's so good.
Also, the character being surprised by their own tears, I love it when that happens.
Oh yeah,
and this was an excellent
awesome
example of it.
Excellent
example.
Yeah.
So a couple things that I want to make sure is mentioned. One, the fact that we got an ED that was like an extended ED, like it's the full song that we finally get to see.
Yeah, the editor did say that there were some things that he needed to add to this episode before he gave it to me. I don't know what it was necessarily because we had a couple things that were odd in this episode. We had an ED in the beginning of the episode, so I don't know if that's what was added or if it's that, well...
Like the bonus bit of animation was like originally not a part of the episode or something, or...
Well, no, just that whole second part of the ED.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right. But I thought you were separating the animation from the song.
Oh well, yeah. The song would have existed, out there. Like any ED or OP. There's for an anime. There's usually a full song that's a lot longer than the 90 seconds that they use for the actual episode.
But the question is whether or not this episode was actually 26 minutes long.
Oh no, yeah.
Or whether or not it had visuals attached to that second half of the song.
Yeah. No, I'm guessing it wasn't just a black screen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
seconds
just clarifying.
Of the ED played.
So that's something just to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yes. But one of the things that I gotta say I appreciate, because this is the first time I've ever seen it done in this way, is, and I've said this before, I love EDs and I love thematically what they represent in a lot of ways more than OPs. And I love when EDs are brought in and played in the middle of an episode because of that generally like different tone and in sort of thematic style to them, right? I have very fond memories with EDs being played in like towards the end of an episode. However, I have never ever seen something where we take an ED and even though a lot of the things that were happening in the ED happened canonically in the story, we can assume, right, with how it's displayed and the things that are shown. It's the we skipped past it, but here's kind of what happened. The fact that it's then still in the style of the ED, which is different and very beautiful and colorful, but also not going in the exact detail by detail, frame by frame, this is what happened, but more of just a general style. If you had questions about it, here's what it was. I love that.
What you mean?
Well, okay. The fact that we see Louis dropping the gun, right? The fact that we see him actually going to devour Louis and things like that, right? We see that scene play out more than what we ended up getting
in the actual
yeah, and then more than we actually got in the actual anime in this extended ED.
Yeah,
and that is wonderful because then it's taking. I feel like it's taking the thematic and tonal vibe that I get from the sound of the ED, from the song. And then also bringing it into the visuals of what's actually being displayed. And Beastars has always been absolutely spectacular visually. The fight was amazing too, but like this was a treat that I can't even think of a reference point in other anime for what to compare it to.
Well, yeah. So in the episode we barely got anything outside of. Well, hold on. We barely got anything outside of Louis' perspective. The ED was omniscient.
Yes.
Lighting had nothing to do with it.
Right.
In the anime, it was dark. Louis was panicking. His breath was in our ears. Like it was a very scary setting. The light comes in from the outside and it kind of shakes up his world and everything. But in the ED, we see it play by play, moment by moment, to the point that Louis didn't necessarily see all this stuff.
Sure.
So one of the things I feel like is really kind of special here is that Louis will not necessarily ever know exactly what Ibuki did. And one of the things that I think you caught on really quickly was that he saw the guy following them.
Oh, yeah, that Ibuki did? Yeah.
Ibuki did, which means that he initiated this quickly.
Right, and maybe even did that not even intending to like eat Louis, but he's coming. I need to make sure that he shoots me here so that Louis doesn't.
This is what was going on.
Yep. I love situations where a character realizes that they need to die, basically, but
to save someone else.
But but they can't let the person who cares about them actually be the one to do it, right? Because it would destroy them. It would absolutely destroy them. Louis was practically destroyed anyways, even just from losing him, right? But yeah.
Yeah, that was just wonderful. And then another side of things that was really cool was the idea of, well, we have the monsters kind of scene where they're like, oh, yeah, we're monsters, right? But once the fight is over, right, there's this moment of, well, hesitation from us because we're like, okay, but you know, this still happened. You guys are in a really scary situation, but we get a little bit of Riz internal thoughts, and he's thinking about Legoshi, like, what, how are you still able to look at me this way?
Yep.
And I think right there, Legoshi really set himself up to be saved without even really knowing it, because the idea that the cops come, because guns were going off, at least I believe there was a gunshot.
I think Louis did that to get his attention.
His attention.
Oh, right, yeah, so he would have had a gun.
Yeah. Or maybe someone saw a fight going down.
Who knows?
Or it was Pina grabbing his phone and calling the cops. That's the one that makes the most sense to me, is that immediately once he grabbed his phone at the dumpster, 911, you know?
Right.
They all get arrested, like Legoshi and Riz, but it was because of everyone's testimony, Riz included, that Legoshi was let go.
And that's what I wanted to bring up when I kind of skipped ahead to the fight bit.
Oh yeah.
Is that with what's happened in the episode thus far, physically, Legoshi has been beaten to shit. Right? There is
he could die at any moment.
He could die at any moment. Riz hasn't been taking his muscle suppressors. He hasn't, like, you know, and he has also
for weeks.
Right, exactly. So there's no reason, absolutely no reason, that Legoshi should actually be able to defeat him in a fight. But this fight was never about the actual physicality. If it was, you could have just had someone show up with a gun like Louis and just bang, right? Riz is dead.
Yeah. And Legoshi made mention of that. This isn't really a fight about who wins or loses.
And narratively, that's also really important, because the best fights aren't just about the physical displays. That can be fun. That's a way to demonstrate the conflict, but it's really just a way to show what's already been happening on the non-physical level, now displayed physically with nothing to hold the characters back, right?
Exactly. And for them, it was their lives and their beliefs. And
all of it was on the table. Yeah. But Riz ended up being convinced of the thing that he was deluding himself about and choosing to sort of live in denial of up until this point. The fact that he killed Tem, right? And all of that happened and things like that, and feeling like he had uncovered some truth, right, that no one else had, and all that, greatest kept secret or something. And then he sees what it's actually like. Suddenly, Legoshi reaches him. Not just with his words, but also with his actions, and Louis as well, right? The fact that, you know, Louis like, finish this, right? And he actually sees Louis there, you know, earnestly watching and cheering Legoshi on, missing a leg. A leg that, a gone leg that has been, you know, bandaged up as best it can, and all this stuff. And then suddenly he's like, oh, I guess I was wrong. And then when Legoshi punches him, even though Legoshi is hulked out because of the meat and everything, Riz didn't buckle from the punch.
No. In some ways, he was being freed right in that moment.
Exactly.
Thinking back to Tem,
And that's when it's the, okay, you've defeated me.
Yeah.
All right.
So world-wise and everything just, you know, happening plot-wise, Legoshi will no longer be at Cherryton.
Yep.
He has a criminal record.
He's kind of going through the same path that Louis went through of dropping out of school, and, you know, all right, you got a new path now.
Louis might go back to school, though.
I think he will.
There is a very real possibility that they basically switch things back around. And in a really cool way, I actually hope that Haru and Louis get back together for a little bit.
I do, too. I want them to get back together, but I feel like this is a necessary step, because...
For what's Legoshi leaving is what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Because Legoshi, even though it was something that was true to himself and his character and his person, he was not thinking about Haru this season, right? That was not something, that relationship was not something he was putting energy or effort into, and as a result, it makes sense for it to not be happening right now. And then when we get to that point where then Legoshi is actually ready to make it a priority, then cool. right? Because, you know, and we saw that Haru was kind of open to that of like, okay, well, I'll be getting a boyfriend. It's like, well, I'll think about it. You'll think about it. Like, come on, no, that's not going to fly,
She stopped
mister.
once he kind of responded. She's like, well, what are you going to do about it?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, she loves him.
Absolutely.
He loves her.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But she has standards, you know, she's not just going to let him be lazy about it, right?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
He has things that he's sacrificing. And one of the things I really think I don't think they needed to say it in any uncertain terms, because while there were a lot of moments where it seemed like he was putting some thought and focus into their relationship, ultimately it was factually sacrificed, I would say, for the purpose of him gaining all this strength, along with all the other things that he sacrificed as well, like a little bit of his fur color, you know, a couple other things. But all that to be said here, Legoshi, this is your path. No one else has traveled really this path that you know of. Even Gohin hasn't ever come close to this.
It's different.
This is way different.
Coming of age, right? There might you learned some from the previous generation, but now this is your new fresh thing. And with regards to the, you know, the whole situation with Haru, it's really important actually that Legoshi kind of has let go of Haru, because you don't want a relationship where you both truly need the other person, because then that gets into codependency, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so the fact that it's basically all right, you're good on your own, and now we're going to maybe go through the motions of that for a bit, right? And if it changes, if you get to the point where you're like, all right, still want to do this?
Yeah.
Cool. But for now, yeah.
Yeah. I think they set up almost the perfect just shift in everything story-wise for a season 3, while also wrapping up the school devouring plotline. It feels very much like okay, cool, an arc has finished here. A new one will begin, but the idea that while things might shift back in a familiar way for potentially like characters like Louis, you know, or maybe even Haru, Legoshi goes out in his own way, and in some ways basically has now lived the thing that Louis always wanted him to, which was to take responsibility for his strength and go use it.
Right.
Which at school, no, you're sorry, you're not going to have that strength be respected or even really be set up in a way to be used. Like it's not not valued here.
Right. Well, and in a kind of similar way, Louis won't be able to go back to the facade of the person who has everything perfect now. He won't be standing up tall and straight anymore without a prosthetic, right? And there's a good chance that for a while he'll be just going around on crutches, right?
Probably.
Now, I don't think there is anyone that will see that as a sign of weakness, especially if they get the full story that he offered up his leg to Legoshi, right?
Yeah, he might not share that, though.
No,
that's kind of intimate.
No, that's going to be private, I think, right?
I think so, too.
But it's the strength amidst weakness, right? That he's constantly been in kind of denial of his position as a herbivore, right? Because he feels like he's then forced to appear weak or be weak or whatever, right? But now the fact that it's
weakness,
he hates weakness. But now the fact that everyone's going to see him going about in the most Louis way he can, and yet he doesn't have a leg. A deer without a leg is dead. Not this deer, though.
Yeah, I also really like that in this episode we have him finally getting rid of his crafted words.
Yes.
And he said something that was a bit not cold or callous, but a bit just
open.
Vulnerable. Yeah, open, yeah. It's something that he's like, hey, no, you can't be forgiven for what you've done.
At the same time, I wish I had noticed your solitude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. That's empathetic.
Right.
But it's also not the perfect thing to say with regards to feeling powerful or to presenting yourself as powerful here.
Right.
You admitted a fault. And not only that, you kind of also put a stone in between the relationship with him and Riz, because Riz brutally killed Tem.
Yeah.
And harmed one of his best friends. Probably his best friend, actually.
Yeah.
I really think Louis could be changed forever in ways that go far beyond what we can initially see here.
And I can imagine that when he goes and sees his dad again, his dad won't just be like, "Oh, okay." He'll be like, "Yes."
Really? I think he might avoid seeing his dad for a while. Because I think there's a possibility that his dad will go, pathetic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And of course,
like you brought all these feelings and all this.
Okay, sure.
All this emotion. When did you get so weak? And then he's going to be like, I've always been weak.
Yeah. Louis won't care about that. Right.
Yeah.
You know, of course I'm human. That's all I've always been.
That's what I've always been. Yeah, you knew exactly what I was referencing. Yeah. I love Louis' character so much. But I say goodbye to Ibuki this episode.
I know.
We are going to have to say probably goodbye to Riz, and that he's probably going to be in either like a juvenile kind of prison kind of situation because he is a kid.
Right.
A grizzly bear, but still, a high schooler. So whatever their justice system is for carnivores that devour but are so young.
I get the feeling that in a similar way that Louis doesn't have hooves, for instance, the aging of the animals in this world has been normalized since they have just a high school for all species with 3 years and all that stuff. So yeah, hopefully Riz wasn't 18 or anything like that, but that would suck.
Or he gets put into a situation where it's like, see, we actually have a very species-dependent justice system where because you're a brown bear, we're going to declaw you. We're going to do all this stuff.
I could see there being a lot of things
really dark and really brutal.
I get the feeling that he's probably going to end up going to jail for, well, at the very least, a very long time, if not life. But yeah, I'm not excited to see what kind of things they have happen for when you're released from prison and you've done something like a devouring.
Yeah.
Because,
well, y'all, what a finale. Thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. Next show has already been decided.
Indeed.
We're going to be starting Dr. Stone Season 2. So if you want to see the first episode's reaction and discussion to that right now, Dr. Stone Season 2, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.